Ladies and gentlemen, my brethren, you know, I'm not doing this interview just for the sake of doing the industry street. I'm doing this interview because this is my boy, and it's not because we've been friends for long. We've never had no bad words to say about each other, but this is one of the legends, and this is what really excites me to interview people like this. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been waiting for it. He's been holding back for so long. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only from Company Soul Sound, the daddy himself, is of course the man himself, Mr.
Dirty Den.
Dirty Den, Eastender, Grant and all that lot.
Known to you as East London's favourite son.
Right, East London's favourite son. But before we get anywhere, all I'd like to say is, Dirty Den, this is all about your life. This gentleman, he was just running around East London, I believe. Or was it East London? Some people, I think, is from East London. Because let me be honest with you guys, and I need to put this to bed. A lot of us are acquaintances. We are acquaintances. It's like when you go to your 9 to 5, you meet your colleague, you talk to your colleague, but you don't know the history of that colleague. How they got that job. How did it all start? But Dirty Den is going to put it all to bed. That a young boy running around East London. Am I right to say East London?
You are right, Pete.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, and he managed to, obviously, I believe you went to a school.
I went to a school called Upton House, which is in Hackney.
Okay.
And I basically started, my musical career really from there. I started off in a sound called Sabrina, which is owned by my brother, Mark Winter. And Sabrina was built up of, we played a lot of reggae.
Before we get to Sabrina, what was your schooling like?
My schooling? Well, I went to a school where there was a few musicians there.
Can you name some names?
There was a guy named Tubbs from Light of the World. He was one of my main players in school. And there was another one from Light of the World. I can't remember his name, his surname. But I could remember Tubbs quite well because he was in the same house as me. God rest his soul today, sadly passed away about 10 years ago. But, legendary in the game. Also, another guy that went to my school, a session player, was Stanley Andrews. Now, I tell you what, back in the days, when we were going to school, these guys, I used to see them on things like Top of the Pops, like, doing like part of the band on stage. And I used to think to myself, but these guys are really serious about their game. And hence the reason what got me involved, because I was inspired by musicians like that went to my school, because, music lesson was high on the agenda for us guys. But, whether you got a chance to sort of spend the best part of your latter years in school in the music room was really down to you.
Mm-hmm. Now, schooling, of course, did you pass the exams or anything like that? Were you like one of the top boys on the class there?
Well, I was average. Yeah, I passed my exams, me maths, me English, to get where I wanted to get. Yeah, I wasn't too bad in school.
Okay, so when you left school then, of course, after a little while, what made you decide to sort of like fish into the music scene? Was it that you picked up your first 12-inch, or who got you into liking music?
Well, it kind of started off from my dad, really. My dad was one of these Jamaicans where, he always had music around him. Right. So, hence, back in the days when we used to have family parties, there was no need to hire a DJ, because we had so-called DJ uncles and that in the family that, could come and spin a tune, and, I'd be sitting there watching them thinking one day, that'd be me. So my aunt used to have parties, and she had one of those Blue Point grams.
Oh yeah.
And I tell
the
you
player
what,
grams.
I used to load up like 5, 6, 7 inches, and they used to just drop one
after the other, yeah.
And that's how I used to select my music.
Yes. That's legendary alone. But what was Mark like, your brother? Because your brother's big in there, of course, as well. So what was your brother like? Were you brother love, or how is it? Are you the only two, or is there
No, there's
brothers?
3 of us. There's
Okay.
3 of us. There's Mark, Gary, and myself, and my younger sister Lorna. But it's more about me and Mark and Gary. Now, we started off with a sound called Sabrina, and it had a few guys in it, you know, that we're all still friends today. Do you want me to name a few?
Yeah, name them.
Well, there was a guy named Kenny King Sting from the Windrush Bar. Yeah, the owner of the Windrush Bar. He was
Kenny.
part of Sabrina.
Yes.
Harry, he's still with me today.
Is that Dirty Harry?
Dirty Harry.
Dirty Harry.
Yeah. He was part of Sabrina. There was a very good friend of ours, Errol Douglas. That was another member of Sabrina, and he left it from there and went into hair, and now he's a big hairdresser in the UK. So yeah, we had a few guys from Sabrina. Joe Weatherman. Who else was there? Roger Moore obviously was part of the clan.
Roger Moore.
Actually grew up together,
yeah,
you know, as neighbours, and you know, we always sort of like went out and done our thing as DJs.
So what part did you play in Sabrina at the time? Were you the mics man, or were you the vinyl man?
I was more the quiet man that was like, anytime I got an opportunity to put a record on the turntable, you know, when my brother was probably wanted a break, then I'd come in and play my little piece, you know. But then after a while I thought to myself, you know something, I want to have my own sound.
Wow.
You know.
Was Mark upset when you said that?
Not at all, because he generally lost a bit of interest in the sound business after and started to do other things. And I just continued and always wanted to be that so-called DJ.
Yeah.
And continued, you know, doing my little thing, and then I decided to form a sound called Company Soul Sound. Company Soul Sound.
Now, I know Company Soul Sounds from even back, what was it, the 90s?
Well, we actually started from Sabrina started 1984. 84. We started about 88.
Oh, so near the 90s.
Yeah.
Because obviously a little while after, you know, it was a scene that Company Soul Sound was everywhere. Well, how did you manage to get them up to that sort of standard?
Well, me being a popular person, I knew people from north, south, west. You know, I actually originate from West London.
Yep.
Have a lot of family members over there, and hence the reason why, you know, we'd spend a lot of time playing over in West London, you know. And
well, we're going to get into that very soon, because your parties are always off the hook. You've taken your parties to West London and still jammed them out, so there's a lot of connections. But what will be very trying to understand is, Sabrina had Dirty Harry, Sabrina of course had Roger and stuff, but now they're shipped over now with you. Why did they decide to move with you?
Well, you know, we always liked that feel of being like a DJ.
Yes.
We always had that feel of being DJs, and we always said to ourselves, do you know something, we're going to continue this thing and try and take it to another level.
So didn't Mark sort of say, why are you taking my I don't know, my selector or my people?
We don't actually look at it like,
I missed that.
But yeah, Mark was a person that, you know, he actually wanted to see us grow and, you know, progress in what we was doing, you know. And he was always there in the background, even though he had his mindset doing other things. He was always there in the background if we needed a hand. So it was more like a brotherly love thing.
He's your older brother, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He is a year older than me, and, you know, we share the same love for music, you know. But he was more a reggae selector, hence Lovers Rock, you know, Revival, That's More Mob. My feel was like the soul feel, you know, and, you know, each one teach one, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Talking about the soul field, you go way back with the soul, because even on that style of having your sound system, you decided as well, of course, picking up vinyl, which were collector's items, which no doubt you still have. And on top of that, you decided to start your own record fair, didn't you?
We actually did. Before we actually started record fairs, we used to have little record shops. We had a record shop in a unit in Edgware Road. And for those of you that was familiar that went down there, it was called MDS Records. That's Malcolm and Dennis shop. Yeah, MDS, Malcolm and Dennis shop.
How did that feel now to actually, from them days, holding vinyl? Because vinyl was the main thing there. And then all of a sudden, now vinyl's not there. Do you feel a difference at all?
Oh, totally. I mean, vinyl in itself, no matter what you're into, whether it's reggae or soul or jazz or funk, vinyl was never easy to obtain, the quality stuff, not unless you was actually there when it came out, but when years went by and they were no longer available, you had to hunt around for them, and I think that is a buzz in itself, searching for something that, like, you'd think to yourself, one day I'd like to own this particular album. And it wasn't a thing where, you can go and look for an MP3, because that didn't even exist back then. It was about sourcing that vinyl material,
Yeah.
And you get a buzz out of going in places looking for vinyl. Well, I did at the time, and, as well as I was a DJ, I turned a collector, hence the reason why, we started a record shop, got us more into it. And that's where it kind of all started for me.
Well, it all started for you because Company Soul Sound, as I said, started getting on the map and getting into the big places. But before you got into all the massive places, there was a situation where you used to do a lot with the record companies as well. How did you manage to sort of get into that situation, as well as Company Soul Sound also growing to a stage afterwards and managing meeting, because you've met a load of artists.
Oh yeah.
Drop some names just to show them that you're not
just
really, you're more than an archive.
Early 90s artists like Jodeci, Genuine, there's so much of them. Jagged Edge, Nivea.
You were in Nivea's video.
That's right.
How did that come about? How can you get in Nivea's video? I just managed to get a kiss on the cheek from her, mate.
We was actually in the States at the time when she was shooting a video with Jagged Edge, and we got invited by the record company to come along and just check out a video. And next minute I know I was appearing in the video, and I felt like it was a dream come through, because watching MTV back then, I always wanted to know how they put these R&B videos together. So the invitation took us there, and then next minute I know, it actually took me to the scenes of actually being in, the actual video itself. And I'll tell you,
it's nothing what you think it is.
Nothing at all. I mean, you see a lot of these big cars and that in the videos.
It's as boring as hell, isn't it?
But they're actually owned by the artists, and it wasn't actually boring for me, Pete, because what was good about it, going to Atlanta, being there in a video shoot, and then you meet people like Jagged Edge, the brothers from Jagged Edge, and they actually remembered us, 2 years after, coming to the UK, interviewing them, and then we go out there now, 2 years later, end up in a video that they're in, and wow, what you guys doing here, sort of thing, But, a lot of these artists that we have interviewed in the past, they actually recognise us as, guys that are quite serious about our music. So.
But I think it also comes again because, as Company Soul Sound was not just a sound on the circuit, because one of your members ended up being quite in the industry, was Mr. John Beat Freak, who was one of your members, wasn't it?
John was a favourite for the record companies, I mean, whenever an artist came in the country, or whenever there was an artist to be interviewed, John would always get that call. And I tell you what, I've got to take my hat off to him, because he taught me a lot of things, in terms of interviews and meeting artists, and he was very popular in the industry as well, with a lot of the A&Rs, so John actually opened doors for us.
Right.
It wasn't me getting up with myself thinking, right, I'm going here or I'm going there, you know. I went with John and the doors actually just opened for us. I remember going on interviews and a guy turned around to me and says, I hear your name all the time on the radio and I don't seem to have you on my roster. I said, no. He says, well, I ain't a hard person to get hold of. And he says, well, I need to take your number and I'm going to start, you know, distributing your stuff. And this was a guy named Mr.
Robert Pascal from Virgin
Records.
That's right.
And you know, I've got to take my hat off to those guys because it wasn't a thing where I was around sort of like, you know, begging people anything or looking friends, you know. These guys actually recognised that, you know, my sound was quite popular back then and, oh, we got to have him on our roster. And, you know, I knew a few of the A&Rs and that. I knew a lot of people in the music industry, you know, and they actually, you know, gave me way.
They opened a massive door for you to roughly become A&R yourself, didn't you?
Well, yeah, to a degree.
Well, you did, because one of the people that you nurtured, two of the people you nurtured, was Mr. Wayne Marshall, and also there was Savannah. Tell us more about that. How did that door open there?
I've got to send a big shout going out to Orlando Gittins, you know, because when Orlando started the label Soul Town, he actually sat down with me and my brothers, told us what we was doing, and we said, sounds very interesting. He wanted to have a version of Motown Records here in the UK, called his label Soul Town. And, you know, I had a cousin actually, Maxine, that was actually
Is it meant to feel this way?
That's right. And, you know, Orlando sat down and spoke with us and we said, you know something, whatever you're going to be doing, Orlando, we're going to be there right behind you, you know. And he came with an artist that went by the name of Wayne Marshall, who's actually a local artist as well from Hackney. And, you know, we said, right, this guy is definitely got a hit on his hands, you know, from the word go. And G-Spot, Slow Grind, you know, when Orlando came to us with those as promos, we said, no man, you got a hit on your hand, you know?
And that's the thing about Orlando, you know, let's be real with Orlando. Orlando will touch certain things, and it's funny because he actually makes it happen, doesn't he?
He definitely is a hard-working guy. I've got to take my hat off to him, you know. He put a lot of effort and time into the music industry here in the UK, and, you know, I must say, artists on his label at the time, you know, it's a shame they didn't actually, you know, they weren't still around today.
Well, Everest is still around.
Everest is still about
Everest
in the background doing things, producing stuff for other artists, which is good, you know. I still see Wayne Marshall now and then, you know, bopping about. It'd be nice to actually see him do something new today, you know, with the scene of what's going on today, you know, with the independent.
To send a
artists.
message,
You know. So yeah, I played a little part in, you know, helping guys promote their artists and making them to be who they are. Also got to send a big shout going out to a friend of mine, John Emmanuel, because he actually he was actually involved in a project with an artist, I'm trying to remember her name now, 24/7 Love.
Okay.
Do you know?
Hang on, 24/7 Love. Oh, hang on, Anna, not Irene. Irene, yes. So big tune.
I've got to take my hat off to the likes of people like Johnny Manning. I actually went to my school as well, you know, and you know we always shared that love of music. So you know, we was actually involved around people back then that were like little celebrities, entertainers.
Yeah.
You know.
We're talking about celebrities and entertainers. Company Soul Sound is still climbing up the ladder, but climbing up the ladder, who is Company Soul Sound? Dirty Dead is the CO. Who is really in the set? Well, who are your main players? Because you mentioned Dirty Harry. We know Roger Moore. We know, of course, you've got John Beat Freak, who was your right-hand man. Have I missed anybody out?
Well, yes, you have actually, because I had a great MC back then that started off with us that went by the name of Husky Miller. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Husky Miller, he was one of those DJs back in the days that you know, I must say, take my hat off to him. A lot of people looked up to him and showed him respect as a younger MC. But I'll tell you what, that guy definitely was part of Company Soul Sound and made it happen for us guys as well when we actually first started out. Because, you know, back then, you know, you had to have a MC, a mic man, you know, just to give you that introduction. And I must say, Husky Miller certainly filled the boots for that, you know, for Company Soul Sound.
Company Soul Sound is still climbing up that ladder today, and let's go a little bit forward now, because I need to ask you, what do you think of the state of the industry now as it stands with current? Because we're now current, we have to go current, otherwise with Dirty Den I would go right into his laundry, which I'm sure he's not going to want, but but it's good laundry, but you know, what would you say the state of the industry right now
The
is?
current state today, for me, is the way I look at things, and I look at music, and I love my music, and I like to hear new stuff as well as the old stuff. The current state of things today is very stagnant. I don't feel like it's really moved on, you know, hence to make our scene any bigger, you know, because, you know, back then when I first started, I mean, you'd always hear of a new DJ, a new sound coming in, and, you know, it kept the thing vibrant and fresh, you know, whenever you heard a new DJ or a new artist, you know, but it's not really like that today. It's like everybody forms a clique today and sort of stay in their little bubble. Hence, you know, a lot of the DJs to me today, they play the same old records that we've been playing for the past 20 years. So I don't think the scene's really moved on in that sense of being musically, you know, some of the tunes that we broke back in the late 80s, early 90s, people are still playing them today, which is a good thing, but
There's a time and a place.
There's a time and a place, and there's actually so much music, you know, to scope and introduce your listeners to, you know, and your fan base to. You know, most people I know, they like to hear new music, and I like to introduce new music into whatever I'm doing, whether I'm DJing out on a circuit or I'm DJing as a radio presenter on a radio station.
You've touched it where I was going to go next, because radio presenting, you started back in the 90s as well. You started a radio station, I do believe, called Climax.
That's right.
Tell us more.
I've got to take my hat off to another friend of mine, Sergeant V. He was very good friends with John B. Free. Gave me an introduction, and he said to me, Den, your name's been like bopping about for a little while. You're like one of the popular DJs out of East London. Why don't you go on the radio? And I turned round to him basically looking for excuses, saying, you know something, I don't have no time to be doing no radio shows, and you know.
Was that solely because you're 9 to 5? You've been working all your life as well.
Yeah.
You've got your 9 to 5 going on. Was that really because of that, and you couldn't fit in family time?
Yes, that's right, you know. And, you know, I could say, I mean, I had no experience of radio work, radio presenting. And my friend Sergeant said to me, then you go on the radio and just build up your profile, yeah? And, you know, go on the radio and play the music people know you for, which was rare groove back then.
Yeah.
And he said, you give yourself time, right? You know, you'll actually go on there and make a little name for yourself. And, you know, I went on there, Climax, and I was very mic shy, you know. I put the record on and I think, wow, what am I going to say now? And then I actually thought to myself, do you know something? Playing music from artists that you like, you know, you're going to definitely do a bit of research into, you know, what label they were on, what producers were behind them and things like that. And it made it that more interested that I thought to myself, there's plenty to talk about being a radio presenter. And this is what Sergeant was actually trying to tell me. You get on there, the more you do it is the more you're going to enjoy it.
100%.
And it's just going to flow. And that's what happened to me. So I've got to take my hat off to Sergeant V, who actually gave me that kick up the arse to say, get on the radio then, you know, because it would help you and it would make a lot of difference to what you're doing.
And Climax was the one.
Climax actually started at Climax, but actually the first spell of radio was with a guy named Bushman over in West London on a radio station called Traffic Jam.
Oh yeah, Traffic Jam. Remember Traffic Jam?
And I remember going on there. I'd done an hour's slot.
Was it a fill-in show?
No, I actually done a guest on his actual show, and he gave me an hour of his show, and I'd done an hour, and I was just playing the music, and I was thinking, I don't really know what to say. I was actually shy,
Yeah.
And then after he said to me, "Den, do you know something? This is you, but the more you speak is the more you're going to get noticed and recognised, and people will be listening to you." And he actually gave me my first break, Bushman out of West London.
That's good, because talking about radio as well, your break has continued, because it's like everything that Dirty Den touches, it seems to sort of shine bright. But the industry out there, I don't understand why that you talk about this sort of, this little click thing, and why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of competition? Do you think it's really just the way it is? Is it because these people are more friends, a tight community, or what do you think it is?
I think, if you get on with a set of people, in this game, you think to yourself, something, I want my audience to be around these kind of people. And you decide to just say, well, all right, I'm going to stick to these particular DJs, or maybe play out for a particular promoter to gain that, Whilst back when I first started, I'd play with DJs that I never knew, never heard of. And, after that first set of playing the music with them, you and them become friends. Yeah. And, you just find that it wasn't a case of you wanting to clash with these guys, you just wanted to play with each other more and more, I remember meeting the likes of Mystery when I was in Sabrina, and actually our first spell over in South London as DJs, when I was with Sabrina, we actually played with a sound called Saxon
Studio,
Dennis Rowe, and meeting those guys, on our journey, it was a pleasure, because back then Saxon wasn't a household name, worldwide to what they are today. They were the sound from out of Southeast London, and they had some great MCs that excelled from me. And playing out with those guys back then, it actually gave me that foresee into like being a DJ. It's nice to have MCs around you that can flow as well into what you're doing, and actually playing out back then, we'd go to events and play, and didn't actually knew the guys we were playing with. And back then, when I say back then, when we used to go out and play, it wasn't no 5 and 6 sounds. There was only 2 sounds on the bill, so it was your sound plus another sound. I remember playing with Saxon back then with Sabrina, and we was there, and Dennis Rowe, Musclehead, really nice guys, and we were there playing with them, and then Mystery comes along, and that's how I got to know Paul Charlton, through playing under the Sabrina sound. He actually came over to us, introduced himself, and told us he's got a soul sound. I said, yeah, because he heard us playing a bit of soul music back then.
Was that Ladies' Choice?
Ladies' Choice, yeah. So he said he's got a soul sound that, he'd like to play with Sabrina one day. So we said, yeah, that's not a problem. And, time went on, and we formed a company, Soul Sound, and, we always kept our friendship. And Paul used to come over and listen to us guys when we used to play in Hackney, and he invited us over to South London, and we'd go over there and play with them, and just built up our repertoire from there.
So what makes up a good MC, would you say, D?
What makes up a good MC?
Yeah.
A guy that actually has his own lyrics, and you know, sit down and actually writes his own notes, you know.
So it's like writing a track, really, writing a record.
It is, and you know, I've had DJs around my sound that were quite serious like that. You know, Polito Don's one of them, you know. Whenever he took up a mic, you know, that guy knew, yeah. He don't even have to hear. It could have been his first time hearing that song, yeah.
He's got the flow.
He's got the flow for it. And, you know, we used to go out and play out, and Polito used to say to me, "Den, I've got a new lyrics today, you know, and I know you got some new music." I said, "Yeah, man, without a doubt." And we'd go out and, you know, he would just flow on everything, you know, the intros of some of the tunes that we were trying to bring to the table. So I've got to take my hat off to the likes of Polito Don as well. Great MC, you know, actually played his part with us guys.
There's one of the tracks talking about Polito that he rhymes really well on. It's Lana Hathaway.
Oh yeah, Baby Don't Cry.
Baby Don't Cry.
Yeah.
That's where he's recognised really from. That I would say.
You know, I mean, Polito orientation of an MC. Polito likes original lyrics, and one thing I must say about that guy, you know, he sits down with his paper and pen, you know, when he's at work in the daytime, and says to me, "Then sometime a lyrics will come to my head and I'll just write it down and then go home and just rehearse it, or be rehearsing it during the course of the day. And come weekend, when it's time to go out there, I had fresh lyrics." So I've got to take my hat off to a guy. I mean, I've always said to myself, the likes of him should have had a few tracks out there, because he was quite original, you know, in spitting his lyrics. And a lot of the, you know, lyrics that he used to sing all made sense, you know.
And that's a good thing when they make sense.
Rice and peas are we national dish, you know what I mean? Ackee and saltfish and steamed fish. See, all those lyrics, you know. I got to send a big shout going out to Polito, because I remember playing out and having Polito on the set, and you know, people were like amazed. We used to go over south, west and play, and like people were amazed of the lyrics that was flowing from that guy's mouth. Some of them would just stand up there in amazement, just watching him flow, you know. Yeah. And to me,
and how did you meet Polito?
Well, I met Polito. I knew him a long time still, but I actually got introduced
and for
to
the
him.
people, sorry to cut you, for the people who don't know, Polito Don is Shoe Dr. Martin's brother, older brother. So let me just clear that up straight away.
AKA the Lyrical Wizard.
The Lyrical Wizard. Yeah,
now I met Polito through, you know, being introduced to Polito as a sound member through a friend of mine called Paul, PC Nightlife. And he said to me then, at the time, you know, I didn't have an MC. And he said to me, "Then I've got a friend that, boy, he would fit your script for you so well, you know, as an MC." And he brought Polito along, and one thing I say, me and Polito share the surname. First, we share the same surname.
You would have thought you were brothers.
Well,
the winter side of things.
People kept asking me, "Are you lot related?" I say, "No, we're just, you know, associate, good friends." Yeah, you know, we both came out of East London, you know. But I've got to take my hat off to PC Nightlife, because, you know, he actually was right. You know, Polito came along and he done his stint with us guys, and hey, yeah, man.
And talking about PC Nightlife, he's a silencer, he is, because he's another music critic. He knows what he wants, he knows what's right, he knows what's wrong, and, you know, he's not one of them people that goes out there big-headed and whatever, but he doesn't get the credit that's due.
Nah, he doesn't, and reason being is because he's not one of these that want to be out there, be in the limelight, be in everybody's face. He just wants to go out and do his thing, you know. And I tend to find when you're more that way inclined, you know, more humble and settled.
Like yourself, you're very humble.
Thank you.
Very humble.
You know, it actually opens doors for you, and, you know, it actually gives people that chance to actually realise, you know, you're a real person. You know, there's no airs and graces about being, you know, humble and settled and contented. You know, you don't have to be out there on this hype, yeah, this is me, here I am, sort of thing, you know.
Let the people judge you.
Let the people judge you. And
totally.
I think that's what PC Nightlife's about as well.
He is. Well done, P. Also, a situation now, which I can say, we're talking about promoters, and there's some little skirmishes, as said, of the promoter should sell his own tickets, and the DJ shouldn't have to sell tickets. What's your motto to that? What do you feel?
Well, my thing is, if you're a promoter, an established, big-time promoter, yeah, whether you're established or not, I don't think it's right you asking DJs to be selling tickets. Your job is to promote your dance, to make it as successful as possible, for you to go out and sell tickets. Yeah, it's not for the DJ. The DJ's job is to come and provide his services to you as a DJ, entertain, you know, the people that's out there, you know. Sometimes a lot of the emphasis is put on the DJ as to why, you know, the event was or wasn't successful because they didn't sell enough tickets. Whilst being a promoter, if you're a promoter, you're supposed to do that part of the bargain yourself. Right. You know?
So what do you feel about, in a sense, now I'm DJ, I'm going to be DJing for you, we've got a big event coming up, and all of a sudden you give me a book of 25 tickets and I come back to you and I don't sell one ticket. Isn't that going to make you a little bit like, what am I using him for? Because he's a waste of time.
It's going to make me think that, yes, but my motto is, you know, I've booked you on the strength of coming there to play music. I've not booked you on the strength of how much tickets you can sell, you know, because you got top DJs, you know, in this world. And you don't see them running around selling tickets, you know. Now, your job as a DJ is to come out and entertain the crowd. So, providing you've come out and you've done that for me, you know, that's good enough for me, you know. You didn't sell any tickets, obviously I've got to pay you. So, I'm going to use my initiative and say, well, all right, you didn't sell any tickets, but you actually entertained the people that was there for the night.
Would that make you want to book me again, or would it make you think, well, it's not worth it?
Well, if you're that much of a good DJ, yes.
Right.
You know, you've entertained my crowd was happy with what service you provided. Yeah, I would book you again.
And talking about, you know, events, being a promoter, you put on a lot of stuff yourself. You've flown all over the world as well to go with it, with some of these events that are done abroad. But one thing that you do year in and year out is your birthday party. You did one with Freddie Mono, which was in Manor Park in a place called...
No, I actually done that one on my own.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I've done it on my own. The first one I actually did was out in Romford.
Yes.
Well, when I say the first one, one of the main big ones.
Yeah.
You know, I've done one with Mr. Michael Simons.
That's right.
And he actually came to me, him and PC Nightlife, and said to me, "Then we got a venue." Yeah. Took me to the venue, and I looked at this venue. I thought, this is the size of a football pitch. How am I going to get this packed? And Michael Simons turned around to me and said, "Then, if there's any DJ out there that I could see fulfilling this venue, it's you." And I looked at him and I thought, "Are you for real?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm serious then." Anyway, I said to him, "I don't like to blow my own trumpet, you know, and I'm telling you straight, this is too big for me. I'd be like
petrified.
Yeah, I'd be a little kid in a pond, you know, standing up in this place with me and my few little friends then." Anyway, he convinced me to actually, you know, put something on in this venue, you know, and he coincided and helped us. And, you know, lo and behold, it was successful. You know, we'd done a dinner and dance show party. You know, comedians sat down, had meal, and we had like DJs. And I tell you what, you know, I've got to take my hat off to Michael Simons, because if there was anybody that believed in me back then, it was him. You know, and he made it successful. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, 1,400 people in here. How did I do that? But it's, you know, the popularity of myself which helps, you know, without a doubt. And, you know, I tend to know a lot of people, north, south, east and west. And, you know, putting a DJ lineup together, you know, it's not a hard thing.
Well, you're a very likeable person as well. You're humble, You don't get involved in any of the mix-up thing.
Well, I try not to, but you know, I have had one particular guy. Yeah, I don't really want to call his name.
You don't need to
because I'm
call
not a
names.
name caller. You know, but he actually told me to go back to the drawing board. And you know, my peeps around me actually took that personal. You know, and said he really needs a check. But I thought, you know, we're not going to go there because we didn't get involved in this business.
Could that have been jealousy, though?
That's what I put it down to, you know, because sometimes a man will always like to stand up in the same shoes as you, but, you know, we don't share the same foot size. So hence the reason why, you know, he could never stand up in my shoes, you know, because I'm sure we got different values into what we are doing.
Does that hit your head of those words coming out that makes you or strives you to go more forward?
Oh, most definite, you know, things like that.
Did it hurt you?
It did. I took it quite personal, you know, and as I said to you, a lot of my friends, my missus, my family, you know, and people that knew me as a DJ, a lot of them, when they saw it, it was quite personal to them. And they said, you know something then, you know, when a man hate on you, you know, those are the kind of things that, you know, they're going to do. But you know what? That only makes you a stronger person.
It definitely makes you a stronger person, because I always say this, D, because I get it as well, yeah. You've got to see it like this. If no one's not talking about Dirty Den, that's because he's not a threat.
That's true.
And that's something you need to live with.
Yeah, and I always put myself in that bracket where I'll always be looked at as a threat because, you know, I've been in this business a long time, longer than most DJs that are out there today. And if there's one thing I can say to you guys is that, you know something, the more love you show in this game is the more love that comes to you, you know. And Pete, you said I'm a lovable and likable person, you know. Like, I like people the same way, yeah. And I never look at anybody as a threat, you know. I more look to want to show that love and share the love with them than to be hating on someone, you know. So I think a lot of that's played a big part in my career into being this DJ up until today, you know. It's just been that Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr. Nice Guy, and you're a very nice guy. Now, the situation with the, you know, we have to go there, is with the situation now. You were talking about people staying in their own box, people not sharing. I'm going to ask you now, is there anybody out there that you feel that you've mentored as well that deserves to turn around and say, you know, if it weren't for me, Dirty Den, I wouldn't be where I am? You don't have to say names, but is there any names there that you could say that you've had that drive to them?
Oh yeah, most definitely. There's a few guys, you know, that I know.
Would they admit it?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I've had a few of them that's come up to me and said, Den, is you inspire me, you know, to want to be that DJ. You know, I mean, another friend of mine, Big U, Jammers TLI. You know, I remember when those guys first came on the scene, you know, the inspiration that came from them to me was like, then it's people like you. When you used to come over to West London, I was that little quiet guy in the corner, you know, but listening to you playing music, and I thought, yeah, man, this short little brother, boy, he's going on with things, you know. But I was very humble in my ways then, you know, and, you know, always had people that came up to me and showed me love, which was nice, you know, liked what I was doing, you know, and always said to me, boy, then you inspire me, man, to want to be that person. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's good stuff. That feels like, yeah, I've done something, I've contributed to this industry.
Well, you've, you know, definitely contributed
to build on this thing here. I mean, you know, I believe in sharing is caring, yeah? And if you see somebody wanting to come and make that name for themselves, why not give them that little helping hand to give them that kickstart in what they want to do? And, you know, I feel like I've done that for a few people. I've had people come up to me, Den, can't you bring me in? And I turn around to them and say, boy, nobody brought me in, I brought myself in.
That's what everyone says.
You know? But you'll always get those that will want to hate on you because you're doing something and you're part of that successful thing, and they want that little bringing, as to say. And I'd say to myself, well, nobody didn't bring me in, you know, I brought myself in.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I have to play devil's out here, right, because this is a fact. I can see that Dirty Den has put on a promotion that it was in Manor Park. I did go earlier, and this place is ginormous. Dirty Den's name as his birthday party rammed this out. It wasn't because of the DJs that he did it with or anything like that. It was your name. Your name in East London, in West London, that brought herds of people down to pack out the venue. What was the venue called again?
The venue was called the Royal Regency.
The Regency, and it was Manor Park Broadway.
That's right.
Across the road from Army and Navy. If you ever want to go and book that place, go and have a look at the size. And I think you'll say, how the hell did Dirty Den's birthday pack this out? What is so special about Dirty Den?
Well, I'll tell you what was good about that night there as well, Pete. Something I've got to elaborate on. Could say I've got some very good friends, even in the film industry, that, associate themselves with TV. And I just thought of an idea at the time that I wanted to do. I wanted to stage. I actually wanted to stage some artists, but then I said, you know something? I'm going to have a little chat show, kind of show on stage. And I thought to myself, I know Sandy from Gogglebox. Sandra and Sandy, they were good friends of mine. I met them through Freddie Mono and became very good friends with Sandy. I used to play out a lot of places and she'd always appear, always come out and give me that little support. And I thought, good stuff. She said to me one day, Den, I really like what you're doing. I like what you do. I like your music, the way you play. And I turned around to her and I said, well, I like what you do on Gogglebox. I said, if we was to put the two of them together, we can have a nice little thing going on. So I said to her, I'm going to have a birthday party and I'd like you to come and host it as This Is Your Life. And I had this event in Manor Park and we had them to open the show for us.
That was the dinner and dance,
The dinner and dance, that's right.
Yeah.
And, Sandra and Sandy came on stage. Actually, the stage was actually opened by another DJ colleague, very good friend of mine, Calvin Francis. He actually hosted the show from the word go. And I've got to take my hat off to Calvin as well, because he's always been there for me as a DJ. He's always given me that support and that moral respect in what we're doing. And he said, then I'll come along and host that for you because it's a good venture what you're doing there. And
well, you're tight as well, aren't you?
Yeah. And it was just nice to be part of it. And, came along, hosted the show. Sandra and Sandy came on. We had a little show called This Is Dirty Den's Life. And, sat there, I brought my kids on stage. They were very young back then. And, it was a great night. And I think that's what made the night successful.
Right. It was a good idea, good concept.
Yeah. You see, putting on an event, Pete, as you say to me, why are my events so good and why do a lot of people like to come? We like to do different things as well. We add to what we're doing. It's not about just
same old.
Putting something on and taking people's money. We had, because that venue, it was like a very high ceiling venue. We had people in there walking around with stilettos on, women. And, these big tall things, they were like up in the air.
Stilts?
Yeah, stilts. And I know to myself, I've never gone out and seen them sort of things on our scene.
It's different.
And I wanted to do things like that. And I had another friend named Elaine that puts on events down at Starlight.
Yeah.
And, I actually went to one of Elaine's events and saw some of her ideas and I said, man,
she does put on some good ideas.
I need to imply some of these into what I'm doing. And, she gave me the hookup of one of the girls, on the stilts. And I actually brought that to one of my parties and it made a difference.
Because it's different. A lot of people just do same old. It gets boring. And people just want to have a different variety of things. They have a choice of things.
And mind you, Pete, these were all surprises on the night. We didn't actually advertise it like that. Like when people actually came to the venue and they were sort of like looking around, they were quite impressed to see that we were doing something a little bit different from the norm.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Now, the thing about it, which people must be asking, yes, Peter, ask him. Where did the name Dirty Den come from?
It actually came from a friend of mine, a guy named Hippie out of the Brothers sound. Now, this is actually before we formed the Brothers. You know, he used to come round us guys, and we used to always sort of like hang out together. And he used to come to my house sometimes, right in the middle of, maybe say we're watching EastEnders.
Okay.
And I'd like, you know, in the early episodes of EastEnders, like, I'd be watching it from start to finish. And he'd come round halfway through, and I think, you know something, I've got to watch the end of this before we go out and do anything. So I used to sit there and watch it till the end. And then when it had finished, he'd turn around and say, all right, Dirty Den, come on now, it's over, let's go. And that's how I got the name, you know.
It was more, I would have thought it was more because, of course, Den, and there was Angie as well. They were the classics of EastEnders.
Well, that's where it all started.
That's where it all started
you
from.
know, Dennis and Angie.
And Angie, absolutely, you know, classical viewing that was. And another thing I would like to ask you regarding your music taste, which of course was a rare group, would you say, which I personally feel is, that Neo Soul is the new rare groove?
It definitely is, right. You know, and you tend to find a lot of the new Neo Soul artists is inspired off the back of what we call rare groove tunes today.
And Donny's a prime example with some of the stuff he does.
Donny's a legend in what he does. I mean, you know, great producer, you know, and he has great ideas, you know, and he's quite adventurous as well. And I've got to take my hat off to Donny, because I remember him first signed to Island Records.
Island Records, yeah.
You know, as far as I was concerned, that was a classic album. You know, the one that features Unbreakable. Yeah. You know, but at the time, I kind of was gaining experience in how the music industry worked, and you know, it was all about that record company having that budget for you to market your album or your single to make it as successful as they could. And I don't think at the time they'd done that for the likes of Donny. You know, they could have done a lot more to make him that artist.
He could have been the UK's number one.
That's right.
Between him and Omar, they could have been.
Yeah.
They could have been the UK's number one male singers.
Two great artists,
definitely,
out of the UK. And I remember even going to America, and you know, people will be looking at the likes of Omar as a legend. You know, a man that represents the UK. You know, no matter where you go in the States, everybody knew Omar. You know, and the likes of Sade, you know,
Sade's a prime
lot
example.
Of people's inspiration in the UK.
Well, then in the UK, we did have people like Lyndon David Hall, which wasn't too bad as well. Yeah. Hill Street Soul, I don't think she's had the credits that she deserves.
No, she's not. Hillary should be right up there. Yeah. You know, she should be up there today because, you know, she's one of those artists as well that, you know, songwriting's great. Fantastic.
And another group that, of course, you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with. Well, you know, Andre is, of course, that's Daddy Ernie's son.
Yes.
And one of them, Maxi Priest.
Maxi Priest.
I believe one of them's Maxi Priest's son as well. Damage, they're still there. They're still popping up. But again, they're not getting the proper quality of support. It was only back of shows that are now being supported. How do you feel about that with the UK? Do you think the UK need to come back? Because I mean, when you're talking about stuff like Afrobeats, a lot of the artists are from the UK as well, and stuff like that. It looks like that's stepped in for the UK. Do you feel that's a shame?
I do, but one of my icons in this field of music as well that came out the UK, that to me, you know, I just love her. I love everything she does, and that's Misha Paris.
Misha Paris.
Because I actually knew her from back in the day. She used to come to some of like the warehouse dances that we used to play at. And she'd come and she'd hold the mic. And this was before Misha was like a household name out there, you know. And every time that girl touched the mic, I tell you, man, it was like a blessing, you know. And you just stand up there in amazement, just listening to the way she sang. And I think to myself, do you know something? I mean, we used to have Barry White here as a mic man, and
that's from Desi and Barry,
and Tony Nicks and Slim Tim. They were all good friends with Misha, and it was just an honour to be playing out around those guys and you know, having the likes of her on the mic. And I always said to myself, there's a lot of talent here in the UK, but we just don't get that exposure that a lot of us deserve. Well, do you know something? We think the population of our people here in the UK is big, but it isn't. Compared to the US, I mean, you know, New York alone hosts more black people than we have in this country.
Yeah.
You know, and and don't get me wrong, you know, the white folks here, there's a lot of love for our music, you know, soul music that's been played from like the 80s, the early 70s, played by a lot of white DJs. But, you know, I remember going to an event called Carib Soul, and there was a lady there, white lady. She was involved in one of the DJs, which is a black guy, and she kept on saying to us guys, you black guys need to be playing more of your music. You know, it shouldn't be the other way round. And I turned around and I said, what does she really mean by that? Well, music has no colour in my eyes, you know. And, you know, I worked out what she was kind of saying. A lot of you guys don't get recognised for the things that you do, you know. And
do you reckon that's a racial thing?
I can't really put my hand on it and say, yeah, it's 100% racist. But, you know, a lot of these record companies, if you was good, they'll put their money, they would invest in you, you know, back then. Now, I mean, it's like,
you know, you do it yourself.
You do it yourself now, you know. So maybe we might get a few more successes out of what we're doing because we got full control of ourselves today.
Yeah. Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, a record company, they can only push you so much in it.
Yeah.
You know, but within yourself, you can push yourself as far as.
Well, I'm pushing you as far as, because right now it means about the actual current state of the music now. You already stated that these little pockets of people and stuff like that, but I want to ask you, I'm going to put it to you, put you right on it now and ask you, this is the good, bad and the ugly. Yeah. I'm going to go now to obviously the good. What is the good? Your international playing out, whatever, that's the type of goodness I feel. But what are your good parts of the record industry? The good parts?
2020, today, current time, the good part is there is some good music out there coming from new developed artists that, you know, they need to get that more support from us DJs. And I tell you, there's some great stuff. I could go as far as saying in the past 10 years, this is one of the best years to me for music. 2020.
Is that with neo soul, Afro beats?
Neo soul, Afro beats, R&B, even pop. Like as far as saying, there's very good stuff out today by developed artists that, you know, want to be the next so-called icon. And, you know, as years have gone on, you know, the music's sort of like been up and down. Yeah, but I will say, generally, the music that are played today by most of us DJs is quality music. It just doesn't get that recognition that it should
deserves.
Get. Yeah. So, you know, I think the way forward in that is us DJs supporting the good stuff, you know, and actually fulfilling it, bringing it to the forefront. So,
but don't you feel? I heard you there, but don't you feel that certain people actually will get a track? Say you're an independent artist, they will get a track, but they don't want to share that track, which does not do no justice for the actual person who's made that track and try and get it out to as many parts as possible. It doesn't really help them if you're going to just keep that track and not share your music. Don't you think so?
Well, yes, I agree with you there. You know, as I said to you earlier on, sharing is caring, you know, and we do like to share the love. But I think to myself, you know, a lot of the DJs today, they don't actually do that groundwork of going out there looking for some of this quality music. They sit there and wait for others to do. Whilst I think if everybody played that role in going out and sourcing music, because this is what it was like back in the days with the rare groove scene, you know, being on that scene, you know, every week a DJ will introduce something different to the scene. which today I don't find it's like that. It's like everybody wants to follow each other.
Is that
one man play a tune and it sounds good, then he believes to himself, well, yeah, you know, like next week you'll hear another DJ playing the track. But back then, you know, we just introduced people to tunes, and that hence the reason why a lot of the rear groove tunes that we were bringing to the forefront then, they're still played today.
So when you say that it's also because this man wants to be the first to play at a dance and everyone to turn around and go, wow, did you see what Blood Dirty Den played? Well, that track's bad, you know?
Yeah, there's that as well, you know. I mean, the artists is them within their self. They take the time out to make it, so we have to take the time out and play, you know. Now, you know, my philosophy is, you know, if you got something and it's good and you know that artist personally yourself, you know, you just help spread the love with it, you know, and you go to all your big shotters them and say, listen, give that a bit of support.
Is that the only goods you've got?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go there with the bads.
With the bads, I just think we more need to be more united with each other.
How would you do it?
You know, like get together and let's all work together as a team, not sort of work against each other. And you've got 3 different promotions going on in one night. Let's all try and work together, you know.
Do you mean putting a calendar together when everyone's got a gig?
Yeah, you know, it works and it makes sense, you know, instead of us cutting off this one to, you know, I mean, the more the merrier. That's what makes our scene bigger, you know. And I think if we worked as a team, yeah, you know, we'd see a lot of plus sides,
right?
You know. So that's the bad side of it.
Okay, so the bad and the ugly. There's not an ugly because the ugly is the bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you're actually at a stage now where radio career is still going on because you're still on the radio. You're on a station, I do believe, a sister station to My Soul, which is run by PC Mystery, one of your iconic...
No, PC right? Mystery actually runs My Soul. My Soul...
Legends or something?
What's the name of it? Paul runs My Soul, but I'm actually around JM, which is part of
that's
My
right.
Soul.
Yes, JM. Yeah.
Now JM is the founder and the owner of Global Soul with Frank Sinclair.
Oh, you've moved again?
Yes, so I'm actually on Global Soul Radio. I'll tell you what, hats off to those guys, because these guys are what I'm about, you know. They're about pushing new artists today, and, you know, they stage a lot of concerts and that at places like the Jazz Cafe, you know. And I'm going to be honest with you, some of these guys I never actually heard of until being on the station and realising, you know, the direction these guys are going. It's about pushing these new, young and up-and-coming artists, you know. So, yeah, hats off to Global Soul Radio. It's the reason why I'm part of it.
Well, Global Soul Radio now, but this is another area that I need you to ask. Your 5 favourite sounds.
Wow. That one is like, it's like you just threw that one at me. And
don't get in trouble.
Well, I must say, as an inspiration to what I'm doing and made me successful and move on and share the love with people, I got to take my hat off to the likes of PC Mystery, you know, because when I actually first started, he was one of the first street sounds that, you know, we had a lot of successful events with. And remember, as I'm saying, back then when we first started this thing, it weren't no 4 and 5 DJs playing together. It was like 2 DJs in a dance. It weren't like 5 to make the lineup bigger, to make the dance successful. It wasn't about that. It was, you have 2 DJs and they were the ones that fulfilled the dance from the word go, start to finish. And I gotta say, when I first started back then with the likes of Mystery, you know, he was very good at what he'd done, and he was one of these guys. He'd host his home thing himself, he'd mic, he'd play the music, you know, and those little things inspired me as well to say, you know something, Paul, if you can do it, I can do it. And I used to go out sometimes and host my own thing, you know. So he's one of my icons, I will say, the likes of PC Mystery. Also, the likes of Trevor Mad Hatter, you know, was part of like a sound called Trevor Mad Hatters out of Hackney. You know, those guys inspired me as well back then. And who else is there? There's my mate PC, Nightlife. There's also yourself.
Oh, thank you.
You know, because I've seen you at untold industry parties. I know what role you play. I've been to a few of your events. That's quite opened my eyes to you bringing new talent to the scene. So, you know, it's these little things that I look at and think to myself, yeah. And, you know, some of the DJs today, like your Fifth Avenues, your DJ Ratty, your Studio Expresses, you know, good DJs. Another DJ that is a very good friend of mine is a guy named Mikey B. He used to have a sound back in the days called Funky Express. From Funky Express, he moved to Top Buzz. And from Top Buzz, he went on to Dream Team with Spoonie and Timmy Magic. Yeah. So, you know, those guys actually I first started in this business with. And, you know, they're still there today and they're still my icons.
Well, your icons have got to carry on now because you've had your 5 sounds. I didn't recognise I was a sound, but thank you anyway.
Well, DJ.
Okay, is your 5 MCs?
My 5 MCs? Well, definitely Polito hits the script straight away, you know. Hollywood. Also Dodd. Yeah, Joshua B is one of my other icons as an MC, you know, but Polito definitely fits the script as top billing. And also I've got to send a shout going out to my first MC, which was Husky Miller, you know, another icon in the game. So yeah, there's a few MCs there.
Right, Dirty Den.
Sorry for those that I've missed out on, you know, it's not a personal thing. Frankie Beverly as well, another great MC in my eyes, you know, as an icon DJ.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to do before I let you go? Because I know you're a very, very busy person. Is there anything that you would like to do before you hang your gloves up?
I'd like to sit down one day and consider even writing a book on my journey, you know. And if so, the Pound Notes was there, I'd like to make a film.
Okay. Because even on that, with even your music career, you used to go all over the place to go and collect music.
My music's taken me all over the world, from the US to the Caribbean, you know, and everywhere I go, I always seem to find music or pick music up. You know?
And you're still collecting music
and
now?
I still collect music today, still buy it, still source it, you know.
Can I buy your music?
Can you buy my music?
I want to buy it all.
What, the whole collection?
Yeah. Would you sell it?
Well, I'd sell it, you know, at the right price, yeah. Not for the price I paid for it back then, but at the price today, yeah.
Do you think you're going to be alive enough to actually enjoy of the value of your music?
Well, yes, I do, you know. I've got a very huge, like, music collection, you know. And I'm actually in the process at the moment of, like, basing it all.
Oh, so you're going to have a record shop online, basically?
Well, I'm looking at something like that. Yeah, that's a possibility of having an online record store. Yeah. You know, because back then we used to have a record shop.
Well, you had a record shop back in the day, isn't it? So you've had a few.
So maybe at my later stages, when I decide I want to hang up my boots and maybe I've had enough of my records, I have an online shop. So I'm actually in the process of building a database up at the moment. You know, it's going to take me years, but I'll get there eventually with the help of my kids.
Right. Before I let you go, is there a last message you would like to say to anyone?
The last message is, if you want to be a DJ today, be humble and settled in what you're doing, and, you know, do a lot of researching into the background of the music that you actually want to bring to the forefront.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, and definitely Mr. Of course, the man himself, Dirty Den. I'd like to offer you this token on behalf of the Industry Street and SD Media and say this has been Dirty Den, all about your life.
It's all about the company that you keep, Pete. And I must say, I feel honoured to be presented with this award, you know, courtesy of the Industry Street. And I must say, you know, like, I feel honoured to actually be presented with something from this, because they say what you put in is what you get out of it, and I feel like I've put in a fair amount to be deserving an award like this. So I've got to say thank you to the Industry Street team and the UK media.
Thank you. Dirty Den. Next week, we're going to have another blast for you. Shall I tell you who it is? Wait and find out. They get even bigger. But Dirty Den is big already. Speak to you soon. The Industry Street, out.
Thank you, guys.